Holy Family Parish here in South Deerfield held a rededication Mass last Sunday to mark the completion of some large-scale renovations which coincided with some recent growth in that worshiping community. Steve KILTONIC attended the Mass and spoke with Father Jonathan Reardon about the parishioner-led effort to beautify this church and a few other parish structures.
South Deerfield is a small New England town with a population of 1,880 from the latest census figures. It's a town steeped in history, known in part for the much-celebrated Yankee Candle Village, which attracts visitors year-round. Christmas is an especially busy time as people travel near and far to take in the festive holiday atmosphere. About a mile from the so-called center of the universe and just down the street from Sugarloaf Mountain, which offers sweeping views of the Connecticut River Valley, is Holy Family Parish. Holy Family was established in 2008 after the merger of St. Stanislaus, which traditionally served the Polish community, and St. James, which was the spiritual home to many of the ethnic Irish here. When Father Jonathan Reardon arrived in 2015 to become pastor, he noticed right away that the church and other parish properties had deteriorated. Over the years, dwindling parish resources hadn't kept up with the required maintenance.
There were some ceiling leaking in the parish hall. There was windows that were leaking. There were windows that were cracked. The ceiling in the church was literally falling, paint chips falling off the ceiling.
Time had taken its toll on the exterior and interior of the 110-year-old church, parish hall, and rectory, and parishioners soon realized that fixing one small part of the problem would only postpone the inevitable.
We talked about the ceiling, and that's when it snowballed to, well, if we do the ceiling, we have to move pews. And the pews need to be restored. They need to be finished and, sanded down, and they're scratched, and they're cracked in some areas. And okay, well, if we do that, then we should look at the floor under the pews because that's cracking in areas too, and the tile's loose, and also the carpet. The carpet is 30-something, 40 years old. It's worn out in areas, so it just kind of snowballed from, well, if you're going to do one thing, you should really look at doing everything.
In 2016, a capital campaign budget of $350,000 was initially established.
We've done some fundraiser type events, but it's been pledges and donations all along.
Phase 1, which started in the summer of 2016, included replacing the roofs of the parish hall and rectory, then painting the church exterior with volunteers and help from inmates from the Franklin County Jail.
Parishioners were in charge of the project. We brought the inmates in, and we bought all the materials. We provided some meals for them, and they painted the exterior of the church. And it did a fantastic job. What was once white is now gray, and where blue doors are now red doors.
In addition, all of the exterior glass was replaced, and the bottom portions of the stained glass windows were restored. The front steps were also redone, and handicap railings and signs added. The church was closed this past June for close to 100 days to start the second phase, the renovation of the church interior. Father Reardon engaged the services of Egan Church Restoration, which has renovated churches throughout New England.
There was a lot of plaster damage and paint peeling, and it started off with the ceiling, and then we began to discuss coordinating, moving the pews to do the ceiling. So then one thing led to another, and we continued on through replacing the carpet with new flooring, restoring the pews, and painting the interior of the church through a group of artists that I have working for me.
Egan did some faux painting on the sanctuary ceiling and also rebuilt the entire arch because it has sustained so much water damage over the years.
A lot of the colors you want to take from the windows and bring those colors in throughout the church. They match the liturgical designs of the church. So we tried, some lighter tones of blue, but the darker tone that we ended up with the white moldings, it really came out and looked outstanding.
Rick Russo, a woodworker, restored the communion rails, which were repurposed from St. James with a new vibrancy. Jeremiah Patterson contributed his artistic wizardry. He spent over 8 months repainting and restoring the 14 stations of the cross, designing and painting the niches behind the 2 altar statues, the Sacred Heart of Jesus and Mary, and he created a new wooden crucifix that will be erected above the high altar.
Essentially, those 2 statues earlier had stood in front of just blank walls. They looked sort of like they were floating in a nondescript space. And so they really needed windows, as we say, doorways to heaven. they had to be painted with what's called faux realism, where they look like they are actually three-dimensional.
For the cross, Patterson painted using an ancient technique that goes back to the Middle Ages, egg tempera.
Artists use pure pigment, pure color, and mix it with the yolk of a chicken egg. And the yolk of the chicken egg is actually what binds that pigment to the surface of the painting. It's a very slow and methodical technique, but it's the traditional technique that these crucifixes from that time period were made in.
Patterson, who has exhibited his artwork throughout New England, said this was the first time he has done work for a church. Another noticeable change was the moving of the original baptismal font, which was hidden in the back of the church, to the front.
It's such a beautiful piece that it should be prominent, it should be seen. And then when we do baptisms, it's right here. It's so people can see what's happening.
Parishioners first got a glimpse of the finished interior back in October.
From the ceiling, the blue ceiling, to the hardwood floors, to the pews, to the altar, it's really just quite stunning and beautiful, and I was overwhelmed when I first saw it.
I hope that when people look up to that ceiling, they think of the heavens, they think of the dwelling place of God, and that it takes them away. It takes them away to that other realm, that heavenly realm.
Phase 3 of the project will begin next spring and will include the repaving of the parking lot and the addition of air conditioning.
It's not just for comfort, but we want to preserve this beautiful church. We want to preserve the artwork and the paint that's here. So adding a temperature control will help us to do that for the long haul.
On December 2nd, a special rededication mass was held to celebrate the completion of the current renovations. Springfield Bishop Mitchell T. Rosansky concelebrated the mass with the former pastor, Father Philip Rue, as well as Father Jack Roach, Father Barron Peace, Father Reardon, along with Deacon Rodney Patton. It was standing room only as Bishop Rosansky gave the homily. In a brief ceremony, Bishop Rosansky also blessed the 3 new icons to the church: the Divine Mercy icon, the new cross created by Patterson that will hang over the center of the altar, and the icon of St. Michael the Archangel. Father Reardon thanked the bishop, the priests, and parishioners in attendance from the former St. Stanislaus and St. James parishes, as well as everyone associated with the renovation.
Today proves that it doesn't matter where we have been, where we have come from, that we have the ability to come together to create a new identity, making this parish community what it is today, truly a holy family.
As Bishop Rosansky and Father Reardon alluded to, their hope is that the physical renovation spur parishioners on a new journey of the heart, a spiritual journey that will deepen their faith and draw them closer to the heart of God, welcoming Him more fully and more completely into their lives.
As we ask God's blessings upon this building and upon these icons, may God give to our hearts true hope in His promises, promises that are always for His people fulfilled.
For Real to Real, I'm Steve KILTONIC.
So far, a total of $450,000 has been raised for the renovations here. Father Reardon says that any extra funds left over will be set aside for a rainy day fund for future repairs to help avoid another large-scale capital campaign.